killing all your dreams. Eyes wide open now, truth you can't disavow. Echoes through the halls, crashing all your walls. Truth seekers, exposing the truth. Truth seekers, coming for you. Uncover the lies, open your eyes. Shadows try to hide, no place for them to bide. Light will pierce you through, reveal what is true. Running from your fears, can't escape the sears. Truth will hunt you down, tear apart your crown. Truth seekers, exposing the truth. Truth seekers, coming for you. Uncover the lies, open your eyes. Eyes wide open now, truth you can't disavow. Echoes through the halls, crashing all your walls. Truth seekers, exposing the truth. Truth seekers, coming for you. Uncover the lies, open your eyes.
Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back. For those of you unaware, for quite some time now, we have been chipping away at the false reality that David Wilcock portrays. Both his claims of speaking to angels who tell him to take baths in his own urine to get superpowers, and his technology claims surrounding the shady aerospace company that he is the Director of Advanced Technology of Stavatti Aerospace. We've showed you through court records and proven that Stavatti has been in business over 30 years and has yet to produce a single airplane product or service. Yet they're always seeking investment dollars, which is strange. We've proven that Stavatti's only income was from a dumpster company storing dumpsters at their Niagara, New York facility, as well as a sewage company which was dumping, quote, fill on their property in Niagara, New York. We have continued to chip away at the false reality that David Wilcock portrays to his dumb as rocks followers and morons that think that he is a prophet or a psychic somehow. David Wilcock lives in a fake false reality of his own creation. And we have been chipping away at that false reality. And tonight we're going to do something great. David Wilcock claimed more than 3 years ago that they would have a working hover car prototype within a year, and has shown nothing that works. And in fact, we have several sources here which kind of prove that David Wilcock has no working anti-gravity technology, has no working free energy technology. David Wilcock just keeps changing the plans. Oh, we're going to build electric cars. We're going to build interstellar spaceships now. It's completely and totally ridiculous. David Wilcock claims that they're going to build hover cars with free energy engines. You won't even need to put fuel in it or power it. It'll just power itself. So I have been speaking to several people, chief among them tonight's guest, who have some interesting stories to share about Stavatti Aerospace and their technological claims. Tonight's guest has an extensive background in technology, engineering, and science. And so I thought it would be awesome to get a real engineer, somebody who has been steeped and worked in technology for many, many years, to examine David Wilcock and Stavatti's claims. And this person has a lot to share tonight, friends. So let's welcome him in here. Ryan Hopkins is here to blow the whistle, a real whistleblower. Welcome, Ryan Hopkins.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me. I'm
Yeah,
happy to
so
be here.
just so our audience can understand why I'm so confident with you and your
I think we've got a
background.
bit of a delay.
Yes, it's quite common, so I apologize for that. Just so the audience understands why I'm so confident in your assessment of Stavatti, can you give our audience a little bit of your background and work history and things you've been working on before we get to the Stavatti stuff?
Sure, sure. So I'm a mechanical design engineer, draftsman, and machinist. Um,
If you have another tab open with like the show playing on YouTube, you
I've been
probably
working
won't.
in the industry for 20 years.
Okay. Yeah,
Sorry, Steve, what was that? Can you help me solve this delay issue?
yeah, if you have another tab open with like the show playing on YouTube, you want to close that down. You only want to have the one tab open, the one that you're in that you joined the show with. So if you have multiple tabs open on your browser, that may be the issue.
Okay,
Yeah, it's funny we were fine before the show started. So I don't know what's happening now.
there we go.
Okay, good.
Okay, sorry about that.
No
Sorry for the
worries. No
false start.
worries.
So, I'm a mechanical design engineer, draftsman, and machinist. I've worked in the manufacturing industry for 20 years. Uh,
Great.
Most recently, just last year, I had a 12-month work assignment at Berkeley Lab, where I actually worked on some components for a particle accelerator, which was very
That
exciting.
that's impressive. So you have quite the background in and work history in
Yes, and
manufacturing, engineering, and high tech stuff. You're the
yes.
perfect person to kind of guide us through these Stavatti claims. So when did you first become involved at all with them or some of their promoters and people working with them? How did you meet them and what was your first impression of Stavatti?
Well, I think I had come across some things about Stavatti before, but I wasn't directly uh, aware of them until about January of this year.
Okay.
Um, I had been researching the work of a scientist by the name of Ken Shoulders, and there was a group I was invited to that was discussing his work. And in that group, there was a particular person who uh, claimed to have some connection to this aerospace company. Uh, Over the course of several of these meetings, uh, he he pitched the idea to me of building a research laboratory in order to uh, move forward the uh, research work that Ken Shoulders did, uh, and another group called the Proton 21 Lab in Soviet era Ukraine, which ended up in a book that's called Controlled Nucleosynthesis. So I had been interested in Ken Shoulders' work because it relates to a phenomenon called electron charge clusters.
Which is something that David Wilcock has mentioned on his live streams. But he's talking about the work of Salvador Pius, which,
Right.
you know, so I'd also love to get your opinion on that. Like David Wilcock is claiming, like, oh, we're just going to take this patent that we don't own and then we're going to build hover cars with this other person's patent. Like, he can't do that. And there's also no proof that these Salvador Pius patents actually work, right? Like, they're just claims on a piece of paper that, I mean, granted, he got a patent for some of this stuff, but I've seen a bunch of interviews of that guy, and he won't show anything that works. Like, wouldn't if he has a patent and anti-gravity technology and it really works, wouldn't he show the world like at least a working desk model or something as proof of concept? And then he would be like the most famous scientist in the world. So I don't buy the Salvador Pius patents, and I especially don't buy that Wilcock has the ability to just copy somebody else's patent and make a commercial product for sale with it, right? Or am I wrong? I mean, I just don't
No,
understand that part of it.
I think you're right. If he's let's say that on the surface that what David Wilcock has said about that is actually true, that would necessitate that he would have had a conversation with Salvatore Pais. And so the question there would be to ask Mr. Pais if he had ever been approached by David Wilcock, which I personally highly doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. So they didn't even ask him, like, if they could license the patent or legally use his patented technology to create their commercial product that they're going to sell. It's kind of ridiculous.
I mean,
Like,
that's besides the fact that he obtained those patents under the auspices of the Navy. So if uh, if David Halfcock, I mean Wilcock, uh, actually is serious about that, he's going to probably have to contend with not just Mr. Pais, but also the Navy for that. And
yeah,
that's
the Navy would have to
potentially a can
allow
of
him.
worms of its
Yeah.
own. But what we're starting with is something that is fictional and has been since Chris Beskar started his little enterprise. How long ago?
30 years. Yeah. About 30 years ago.
They couldn't even make any new renderings of those shit boxes in all that time.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, I have a background in computer science, and I look at those renderings and they look like they were made with, like,
And
I don't
that's
know,
like Sim 98.
Windows 98. Yeah. Windows 98 technology or something.
Yeah, so from the perspective of a design engineer who has shipped product for 20 years for a wide variety of companies, up to and including components for a particle accelerator, it offends me personally that these people are out here just grifting the hell out of uh, uh, what I would consider to be largely a well-meaning but uh,
Vulnerable people. Yeah.
unfortunately uninformed crowd that sort of glom onto his personality, and it just becomes a cult of personality. So, one of the things that we talked about briefly before that I'd like to say is that I am 110% willing to debate either or both of those guys at the same time because I'll rip them to shreds.
Yeah. Well, you have a real background in science and engineering. So what do you think of, I know you're not an aircraft engineer, but still, what do you think of some of David Wilcock's claims about this super fast jet? It's going to do Mach 4, it's going to fly in space. They haven't built a single airplane, and Wilcock's claiming that they're going to build the fastest jet fighter ever in the history of the world. It could also fly in space. It has anti-gravity technology.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, that's what he's
are they
saying.
gonna do that once they're done fueling their retrofitted MiGs with pyrolyzed trash?
Yeah, explain
Fuck
that one
those
to us.
guys.
Explain that one to us, because they made some claims about upgrading MiG fighters, which there are no MiG fighters to be bought. We've proven that with
Right. So
John.
right.
Yeah.
So there's that whole claim, and then there's this other thing where they've been renting out the hangar to some trash company.
Yep.
So there is a real process called pyrolysis where you can turn mixed plastics back into a crude oil feedstock and then refine it, and you can get, you know, all the same stuff out of it that you get out of crude petrol.
There's a guy on Facebook doing that. He's got a
Yes,
machine, and
yes,
he,
Julian, I think his name
yeah,
is.
Julian, yeah, great. That guy,
Nature Dad.
I love that guy. I love
So
that
do
guy
I.
because he's
So do
trying
I.
to do something great. Like, imagine if we could take, it's a great idea. There's so much waste plastics. Why can't we take that and turn it back into fuel?
Yeah,
He's doing
and
it. He's
so
driving diesel vehicles. He's doing demos where he puts the plastic in his machine and then he turns it into some kind of form of diesel and he's running diesel trucks with it.
yeah, it's great. He's showing the
Awesome.
process right there, and that's extremely inspiring to see. But also, he's showing how there's a gap both in the recycling industry and in the fuels industry, because there can be a loop there that doesn't currently exist, and he's got that loop. So, and it's not like he invented that, but he autodidacted it. You know, he's built several of them, and he
Yeah.
figured out the process himself, which
And
certainly,
he's solar powering the machine
yeah,
that makes the fuel. So it's not like he's using more power, more electric to create the fuel than the fuel is worth. He's doing it with solar power. I follow that guy on Facebook and I'm like that guy should be a billionaire. He should get, he should have a company that makes the fuel on a large scale. There's no
yeah.
reason why
I
we should have all this plastic waste. It's a resource.
I agree, and I think that's what exactly what he's showing, you know, and I hope he succeeds too, because he's doing real stuff.
Yeah, but back to Wilcock's claims about the garbage.
Yeah, so so it's a joke that is basically, you know, what are they doing with all that trash they're storing there? I wonder if they're pyrolyzing it for their MIGs
Okay, yeah.
to make fuel for their retrofitted MIGs, right?
So why don't we get into how one of the people working with them tried to recruit you to start this research lab and
Yeah,
your reaction once you realized that David Wilcock was directly involved in this effort and like the reaction of the person that you were speaking with and
yeah.
that's Ed Kublinski, or is that his name?
Ed Kubersky.
Ed Kubersky, who is a big sort of a cheerleader for Stavatti
Yeah.
on his YouTube channel. He believes that they're really going to do the things that they say, so he must be a little dumb. I don't know. What was your
So
impression of him and how'd you meet him and how did that recruitment, because they basically try to recruit you to what? To build anti-gravity technology and free energy technology, or what were they
no,
looking for
so
you to do?
so initially I was invited by somebody else to a meeting of the subquantum kinetics group, which also has a YouTube channel. And for the past few months they've been uh, going through the work of the scientist I mentioned before, Ken
Ken
Shoulders.
Shoulders, yeah.
So since I had sort of regained a strong interest in that recently, I was invited to meet this group and talk with them, and so I did. And over the course of several of these meetings, uh, eventually Ed approached me and asked me if I would be seriously interested in building a research laboratory dedicated to, or at least to include, principally uh, building accelerator apparatus to further the work of Ken Shoulders on electron charge clusters. And so all was fine and well until a uh, we had, I think, two meetings where he was just asking me questions left, right, and center about manufacturing machines. And of course, you know, that's like, in a way, that's my bread and butter. So I enjoy talking about it. But at the end, I just felt like he kind of milked me for all that information on manufacturing machines and methods, and then I found out that his plan was to apparently to approach David Wilcock uh,
Uh
for funding to do this,
oh.
and I was like, I I tried to be civil about it. I sent him a message. We had a video call, and what it basically came down to was that I asked him point blank, do you really believe a single thing that comes out of that motherfucker's mouth? And his response, his immediate response was, well, if you don't believe David Wilcock, then you're not going to be a part of this project. Yeah, okay, buddy.
Wow,
And
interesting.
I definitely screamed some epithets and some not so nice things about them um, to him at that point, and I meant all of them.
Wow. We want to thank Tales of the Sonic Voyage, who just became a YouTube channel member. If you become a channel member during the live broadcast, we give you a big shout out and thank you. Tales of the Sonic Voyage has been a supporter of our show for quite some time. I'm happy to see him become a member. Thank you, Tales of the Sonic Voyage. And Charles McDonald says, great to hear from an insider. Yeah. So, what was your impression of this Ed guy and his plans to, I don't know, start this research lab? Did you just think he was a total wackadoo once you
Well,
realized that he believed Wilcock?
initially it was good. He was friendly. We had some similar interests that we also talked about, some audio related things, and he seemed to have some knowledge, some electronics and engineering knowledge. Um, but once I realized that his plan was to go to this parish charlatan. Oh, there's another thing too. So uh, Ed Kabursky has been going around saying that the way that uh, the name Beskar, as in Beskar armor from
Yeah,
uh,
we've
Star
covered.
Wars.
Yeah, we've covered that.
You have, yeah.
Yeah, Beskar
So,
claims that they named the Mandalorian's armor Beskar armor after him because he
absolute
designed
bullshit, proven by Christopher Spadavecchia, because he got in touch
Christian.
with
Yeah,
the author that wrote that
yeah,
um, that that fiction and came up with that name, and so in his case, I would actually be really curious to find out what his real last name is, or if it's just a coincidence and that happens to be a last name in some language.
yeah. And it's kind of ridiculous for. This is what gets me about Wilcock. Like he makes claims like, "Oh, Christopher Beskar designed spaceships for the Star Wars prequels." Well, anybody can go on
No, it
IMDb
doesn't.
and see all the credits. He would be credited if he designed things. He didn't design anything.
Yeah,
And
simple as
I even called Christopher Beskar on air here to ask him about that, and he doubled down. He said, "Yes, I did, and yes, they did name that armor after me." And
oh,
this is
really?
yeah,
Double
and
down on it.
he
What a
doubled down on the lie, and
fucking
then
man.
this Ed guy is on his YouTube channel telling people that story as if it's true.
Well, sure hope they don't get Disney after their asses, because I could see that ending badly.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous to make claims like that.
Yeah.
But Beskar also claims that he built thousands of spaceships for the secret space program. What do you think of those claims? Because
Delusional.
to me, Ryan, if he can't build a single airplane in 30 years, he's not building 2,000 spaceships for a secret space program. He didn't work. And Wilcock is essentially committing consumer fraud because he's telling people, buy my course. We have this insider that turns out to be Beskar. He gave him a different name at first. So buy my course for $333 because we have this government insider that worked on top secret projects and
The
built
gall.
2,000 spaceships.
The
And then
gall,
people give him
man.
the money, and
Oof.
if that's not true, then that's consumer fraud to me. Lord Ludacris says, this is an awesome conversation. Really enjoying this. Your guest is awesome. This is why your show is freaking awesome. Well, thank you, Lord Ludacris, and thanks for the
Thanks.
support. So, what about the spaceship claims and the claims of working on secret projects and Area 51? And do you think that's all just nonsense like the Beskar armor?
I think this guy is the Timur version of what's the guy's name? The head of Anduril Industries, Lucky Palmer. He's the Timu Lucky Palmer. All he ships is nothing burgers, and I'm happy. Even though I know that it's not really actually worth my time, because I know for a fact that both of these guys are total charlatans, I would still debate both of them in public if they're willing to accept my invitation.
Yeah, but I think that they can't withstand any debate because they've lied so much and they've just made up so much bullshit that somebody with a real science background like you, especially in these high tech fields like particle accelerators, you'll kind of rip them to shreds, you know?
Yeah. So just to backtrack a little bit and give a little bit more context, um, uh, this scientist that I mentioned earlier, Ken Shoulders, is very well regarded. He did some extremely interesting work, and there is some very interesting proof of that, up to and including something I sent you earlier, which you can feel free to share if you like, which was a letter from Richard Feynman to Ken Shoulders talking about charge cluster phenomena. So that really sets the real basis for a desire, on my part at least, to forward to carry that research forward, because it gets into the fundamental nature of electron solitons, essentially. Anyone who's familiar with the art should have an understanding of that. So, suffice to say, it was tawdry, to say the least, of this guy to try to rope me into his plans. And I don't know whether he actually directly connected with them or he's just a sycophant. I know that he's interviewed Chris Beskar before on
Yeah,
his
on his
YouTube
YouTube.
channel,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, these people are bullshitters, and since this guy had the gall to try to rope me into it, which is something that I would certainly not appreciate having on my resume, if it even materialized, which I doubt it would. Yeah, they can kick rocks.
Ursula Bielski's World of the Supernatural says, thank you for just keeping on this. I get so worn down and disgusted, but you never do. God bless you. And thank you, Ryan, for coming forward too. Thank you, Ursula Bielski's World of the Supernatural. Go subscribe to her YouTube channel. Great stuff. So you just kind of know, because of your background in manufacturing and all of these things, that this company is like a total facade. Do you think they're ever going to produce anything? And what do you think of David Wilcock's latest claim? I don't know if you know this, but he claims that somebody invested 800 something $billion, and that they're going to. Here's what I found funny. Wilcock
Aren't
is
they
telling
actually
people,
like $1 million in debt? And
probably
don't they
more.
also have a lawsuit going on from
They
one of their
have
former
they're being
employees who got
sued for
fed up?
yeah, they're being sued for $6 million by an investor who gave them 1 million and was supposed to get back six,
Oh
to the
yeah,
best
yeah.
of my recollection. And also they're being sued for hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of unpaid bills from different companies, like an electrician, a sprinkler company. Even their accountant sued them and got a judgment against them for like $30,000. So yeah, they're heavily in debt. But one of the things that I found interesting is, like, I don't know much about manufacturing, but I can Google. So Wilcox says oh, we got $820 billion investment or whatever, almost $1 trillion.
Yeah,
And
right.
he claims that's for an order for 1,500 commercial airliners. But if you Google how many 747s were made, there's only been 1,500 747s made, and it took them like 40 years to make 1,500. So Wilcock's claims just on the face of them are totally ridiculous. But what do you think of him claiming that they got $800 billion in investment and they're going to make 1,500 airplanes? You're,
Delusions of grandeur, man.
yeah.
Absolute and
All right.
totally abject fucking delusions of grandeur. This
So I'm
is
not crazy when I say they're not producing 1,500 commercial airliners in a short period of time, you know?
the only thing they produce is nothing burgers.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of been it's
Show me
kind
a
of been that way.
rendering from this century.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're kind of using 1989 graphic software to make their stuff, and then they made a video that looked like it was made in the early 90s of a plane
Oh,
flying and
so by the way, I wanted to mention that while I'm not um, in aerodynamics engineer per se, I do play the game as a hobby, so to speak, with regards to rocketry.
oh,
This
that's cool. I
happens
build
to
rockets
be
too.
a
Yeah.
thing that I made. That's a small one, and this is the nose cone for a
A
large
bigger
one
one.
that I happen to be building.
Oh, well, you got more working space technology than David Wilcock already.
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually going to launch a two-stage high-power rocket on K motors to round about 20,000 feet with a dielectric
Cool.
barrier discharge system on it to test out whether it can work for rockets, which, as far as I know, is a unique idea, at least in the public eye. So,
I love rocket candy and model rockets. Like I'm teaching my 8 year old, well 9 year old now. I'm teaching my 9 year old, and he's totally fascinated. He's like, "You can run a rocket on sugar and stump remover?" Yeah, and we made engines, and it's fun stuff. But so tell us more about like how did this situation with this end? You were just like Wilcox a crank, and I guess I don't want to be involved because I don't believe a word he says. And what was Ed's reaction to this situation?
well, I got loud with Ed to the point where he hung up, and that was the end of that.
Oh, bye bye research grant from David
And I
Wilcox.
told him exactly where he could stick his proposal.
But does it inform us then that David Wilcock doesn't have any working technology that he's been bragging about for this long? Because if he had working technology, why do you need a research lab to develop the same kind of technology, right?
Yeah, it's not going to be coming anytime now if you don't even have an actual research and development lab set up or any infrastructure or apparatus. Show me a CNC milling machine that's in that space. Show me a lathe that's in that space. Show me a fucking 3D printer that's in that space. They're liars. And I will gladly tear them apart face to face if and ever I come across them at any conferences that they happen to have the gall to show up to.
Yeah, they were just at the air dominance thing. They paid to give a speech at that air dominance summit. Yeah. And that's where David Wilcock claims somebody found them and invested $1 trillion.
Yeah, sure they did.
The thing that bothers me with Wilcock is like,
They're war chickens, man. War chickens, right?
it's
They're not
just,
even war hawks
it's war
because they don't
chickens.
even
Yeah.
have a product that they can
But you're
ship.
right.
They're
He's
war
so
chickens.
delusional because, like, if let's say, let's just play this out for the sake of argument. Let's say that they found somebody with huge pockets, billions of dollars, and he was willing to invest. Wouldn't that investor check on the company and then find out that they were being sued by a previous investor who called them a Ponzi scheme and an investment scam, and then therefore not risk their own money? Do you know
Of
what I mean?
course they would.
That, especially if you're going to invest $1 billion, let alone 800 billion. It's just so ridiculous. It's like, Wilcott kind of reminds me of, you ever been at a bar and some guy is there and he's getting drunker and drunker, telling war stories, and the stories keep getting bigger and
Yeah,
bigger the
he's a
drunker he gets.
pathological liar.
I
And
for sure think that. Yeah.
And what it comes down to for me at the end of the day is that both of these people are pathological liars. They have nothing to back up their claims. They're out there. They've already, bilked over $1 million from investors in Stavatti, and then this bastard Wilcock has been, grifting gullible boomers for 20
Decades.
years now
Yeah.
also. So, yeah,
Couldn't even
come
make
at
up
me, bro.
a decently believable number, says Indigo Horizon. Yeah, like if he had said somebody invested 10 million. Okay. Oh no, somebody invested 800 billion
That's not even.
dollars. You know? It's
He must
crazy.
have smoked some good shit before that before he popped that one out.
John Lai says all these videos will probably be subpoenaed by the criminal case against Wilcock one day. Yeah. I mean, I believe that what he does is consumer fraud. If you're lying to the public and saying, oh, you could buy my course and we're going to talk to this government insider that worked on top secret projects, and it turns out that's all fake, then you're scamming people. That's consumer fraud.
Yep.
You're lying to them about this guy's credentials. And, you know, I don't know that much about people who work on secret projects. I once had to get cleared to work at a robotics lab at Drexel. Um, but if you did work on any kind of secret projects, I would think that you can't talk about what you worked on, but you could prove through your resume. You could let people verify with your superior that you worked on this top secret project at this top secret base. Something, right?
Yeah,
He hasn't proven any of this shit. It's
there
just
there
Wilcock.
there would be at least some paper trail that would show up somewhere to interested people. But the part of the point is that nobody should even have to investigate this. Like, where's your LinkedIn, bro? Like, what? Where have you worked?
He's worked at his
Where
own
has either of
company
these people?
for 30 years that hasn't produced a single airplane. That's basically what his resume is. It's crazy. And, it makes me wonder, like, how do you live for 30 years working for your own company that's never made a profit? There's only one way to
Yeah.
do that, and that is to bilk the investors out of the money, right?
Yep.
I would think, allegedly. I don't know.
Yep.
And you mentioned that you have actually shipped products, so you know what it takes to manufacture things, right? Like you understand the
Yes.
manufacturing process. And we know that Wilcox Stavatti hangar is just an empty hangar. So from a manufacturing perspective, let's try to game this out. If they really were going to produce 1,500 planes, what would they need in that facility to produce 1,500 planes? How much money would it cost for the tooling and the machining and the parts? Like what are we talking about here? Just so we can know that this is all bullshit.
For 1,500 planes,
Yeah.
okay. With titanium diboride skins that are cut with, as Chris Beskar claimed, EDM. Okay, so let's start there just to break off a little chunk of it. Yes, titanium diboride can be machined by EDM, and yes, it can be coated onto other surfaces. But as far as I can tell, there is no way in hell you're gonna make all of the aero skins for an aircraft out of plates of titanium diboride. Uh, even
It would
if
be prohibitively expensive, wouldn't
it
it?
would be so absurdly expensive. And you would need a multitude of those machines in order to be able to cut all of those plates in a reasonable amount of time. It just there's so many ways that it falls apart. But also, that place is definitely not going to be large enough. And so
Yeah.
there would be a big question early on if this was at all actually serious about what the manufacturing investments are going to be. What if anything is going to be farmed out to other companies, and what is going to be taken care of on site. a lot of times with companies that don't have the capabilities to buy large capital manufacturing equipment, they opt for farming it out, and then they essentially,
Buy the
they
parts, right? And then
yeah
they assemble.
they buy the parts and they integrate and assemble at their site. Um, so, but with 800 billion, that's a hell of a lot of manufacturing infrastructure if you're going in that direction, which it would make sense for them to do if they were actually a serious company making planes, because it would give them, you know, they would own the the, the machines that have the capability to make all the stuff. But that's a large uh, a large chain of supply. So
I would think you're talking about billions in manufacturing equipment to make that many airplanes.
yeah, yeah,
And
many many billions.
somebody in the live chat mentioned the labor force too. You would need 300, 500 people, and that's if you want it done in a decade,
Yep.
right? Like it's kind of crazy. One other question that I had for you from an engineering perspective, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but Wilcock has said that this SM-39 or whatever, this thing that looks like a Buck Rogers spaceship, their air dominance fighter, would do Mach 4 and be able to fly in space.
Okay.
The reason that the Blackbird could only go as fast as it could, I think Mach 3.5 maybe, was because of the heat. Even with titanium,
Hmm.
they could only go Mach 3.5 or it would melt the fucking plane. So
Yep.
how is Wilcock getting over the heat problems and getting a plane to Mach 4? Or you're an engineer.
Well,
Is
when it really
this
comes
more
down to it, I don't
bullshit?
think Wilcock knows a goddamn thing. But when it comes to what Chris Beskar has said, um, that these planes are going to have titanium diboride skins. Now, titanium diboride is a refractory material with a very high melting point, so it could conceivably be used for that. But it's such a hard material to cut, and even with wire EDM or sinker EDM, just the amount of surface area just makes it prohibitive at any thickness, unless you're coating it on stuff, which could be feasible to coat, like magnesium or thin stainless alloy or something with a layer of titanium diboride, but that's not going to give you the deep
The heat
temperature resistance that
resistance.
you
Yeah.
would get from the bulk material. So I see where Beskar is going with that, but there's no way in hell he has the ability to do it.
So basically, it's just a wishful thinking delusion,
Yeah,
like most of the Stavatti claims
unless they
are.
actually have 800 billion and they have some of the largest wire and sinker EDM machines on the planet, there's no fucking way.
And let's get to the. I know you have a background and a big interest in exotic technology and like free energy devices. Wilcock has claimed that his hover car will use a free energy engine. So this is where it gets to the point of ridiculous. It's like not only is he going to need working anti-gravity technology to make his claims a reality and not just bullshit, he's going to need a working free energy machine to power it. What
Mhm.
do you think of those claims? Because I know that you have extensive knowledge about a lot of, let's just say, shady free energy devices that don't really work. Do you think Wilcox saw, do you think he saw like those YouTube videos where it's a hoax and he really thinks that that shit is real, or like what's going on there? And what's the
Probably, yeah.
what's the feasibility of really creating an anti-gravity machine and a free energy device working in tandem? Because those would be basically two magic science fiction devices that aren't real that you make real to make his claims real, right? Like it's so ridiculous to me.
Well, I think um, many people have tried, many people have failed,
I'm one of those
um,
people. I'm one of
but
those people.
but also few of those people had the resources that would really be needed in order to even try. Um, I think there is a question to be had with regards to uh, open uh, open questions out there. There are several, and one of them for me, to backtrack to what I mentioned earlier, is electron charge clusters. That is a very interesting field of, as far as I can tell, very real research that shows anomalous effects that, as far as I know, are publicly not well understood, barely even known about. And one of the things that I've been saying is that uh, that body of research deserves to be carried forward because of the strong foundations that it's based on. Um,
So, along with all the charlatans in free energy and the hoaxers and the scammers, you do think there might be something to some of that research? Because for me, my study of it was it's very tantalizing. Like you think you're going to be able to crack the code, and I spent a long time. We talked before the show of building crystal power cells and Bedini motors and all kinds of stuff, but I didn't get the results that I wanted. But it was always like so tantalizing. Like maybe if I try again, I'll get better results, or a little more reality of energy being generated out of this device more than is being put in. And do you think there is something to some of the research, like Ken Shoulders and some of the more reputable guys?
well, specifically with regards to Ken Shoulders, there's the letter that I mentioned that Richard Feynman wrote to Ken Shoulders, and so that is really unequivocal for me. That is, you know, um, it's very interesting because it shows a direction forward uh, with regards to specifically what is colloquially called ball lightning, toward uh, a means of reliably and repeatedly producing uh, the let's just call it the ball lightning effect. Now, in Ken Shoulders' case, it occurred on a very small scale, but there is some conjecture that uh, that the effects that he found uh, can be generalized in order to uh, explain some of the things that eyewitnesses have seen with natural ball lightning. And chief among those things is that there have been cases where ball lightning will apparently pass through solid objects, fly straight through a door or a wall or into or out of a mountain.
That's interesting. Yeah. And here, this letter, Richard Feynman is apologizing to Ken Shoulders.
Yeah. So the story behind this is that uh, Ken Shoulders approached Richard Feynman at some point in person and described his work on charge clusters to him. And at the time, Feynman sort of rejected him outright. And my thinking is that he must have thought that what's known as the Coulomb repulsion or the space charge limit would come into play, and it would prevent you from being able to pack a whole bunch of electrons into such a small space because they're all negatively charged. They're going to want to fly apart. But moving electrons create magnetic dipoles, and magnetic dipoles can line up. In fact, they like to line up. So what Ken Shoulders appears to have found is what I mentioned earlier, which is essentially that these electron clusters exist in a soliton state. And what I mean by that is we have common examples from uh, the air vortex rings that dolphins blow in water. Or there's a thing called a follicle soliton where you you sweep a plate across the surface of a pool, and it creates two counter-rotating vortices that travel all the way down to the bottom of the pool, create these two counter-rotating dark spots, and then can travel all the way across the pool. Okay, so these are example, and also probably the most common example is smoke rings. So smoke rings and water vortex rings and follicle solitons. Those are all examples of three-dimensional free space solitons. And so the question is ball lightning a three-dimensional free space electron soliton? And I think there's quite a bit of evidence to support that. And so my real interest and my thrust there is to actually uh, you know
Further that research,
yeah,
maybe?
yeah. So just recently I actually did a presentation a week ago with I just got to think of their name. Uh, I think it's Dow Labs. Anyway, it's the Martin Fleischman Memorial Project. Bob Grenier and his group. I did a presentation to them about a series of design studies that I've done recently on charge cluster emitters, uh, means of making charge cluster emitters that could emit reliably and repeatably emit charge cluster beams. In order for us to be able to really make the connection between the micro and the macro, it has to be observed and
And repeatable,
yeah,
right?
and repeatable. And as a result, it needs to be built to particle accelerator standards.
Well, you know something about that,
Yeah,
huh? Having worked on particle accelerators, I'm always nervous about particle accelerators because isn't there some infinitesimal chance that a particle accelerator could create a black hole and kill us all?
there is a zero chance of that occurring.
Really? I'd heard that the Large Hadron Collider could possibly do that.
I think
No?
I think that comes from a bit of science reporting hyperbole.
Okay,
That,
so it's
that is a
rumors
popular
and
thing that occurs.
goddamn
For
clickbait.
the
I fell for it.
headlines.
Yeah, I fell for the clickbait. I thought,
Yeah, clickbait. Total.
why would they, even if there's an infinitesimal percent chance that that could happen, why would they fire up a machine like that, right? But I
Because
guess,
there's a
yes.
0% chance. Because
Okay, so that's
if
just
you actually
hyperbolic
understand how energy
nonsense.
scales, it's just absurd. They have to put so much energy into those superconducting magnets and the cooling systems and the bend magnets, which by the way are being made right now for so the new dipoles and quadrupoles for the high luminosity upgrade of the LHC are being made right now at Berkeley Lab, and I got to see some of them.
Oh, you were working there at Berkeley, right?
Yeah,
Oh, that's interesting.
and the guy who manages that section, I got to talk to him about it too, and he described some of the details of it. Um, there's no way in hell. This is the result of people who don't understand some of the basics of uh, uh, energy
Energy physics, yeah.
and
Well,
power and
I freely
how that
admit
works.
I'm definitely no expert when it comes to all of this stuff. So I just remember reading that multiple sources saying that like it's very risky what they're doing because they could create a black hole that would suck the Earth into it, and
No,
you know,
these people are
crazy
ignorant
people.
fear
Yeah,
mongers.
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm all for science as long as it's like done safely, you know. And they did basically the LHC accomplished one huge goal that they had for years, right? With the God particle or whatever.
With
So
the Higgs boson, the discovery
Higgs
of the Higgs
boson.
boson.
Yeah, that's amazing to me. but hopefully they'll continue research. I wasn't aware that they're upgrading the LHC to do what? Just so I understand.
They're upgrading it so that the beam will have an even higher uh, luminosity than it currently does. So you could think of it as the beam brightness. It's essentially the beam brightness.
Okay, so it's
Um,
like upgrading the laser or whatever, upgrading a laser or whatever, more power.
yeah, they're upgrading the ion emitters and the uh, confinement and bend magnets and the collision and detector uh, area where that detector is also most of the components for that detector are also being made at Berkeley Lab. By the way,
Sorry
just
about
give them
that.
a shout out. Um, so yeah, I got to see a bunch of that stuff, and this is a common thing with accelerators where they'll do a series of experimental runs, sometimes lasting years. And in the case of the one that I worked on, which is the ALS, the Advanced Light Source synchrotron at Berkeley Lab, it's in the big round pink building. It has about a 600-foot diameter beam center, and they're currently in the upgrade process for ALSU, which is the Advanced Light Source upgrade. And essentially, that's going to improve um, the reduce the size of the beam and improve the beam power from the current round about 3 GeV to about 4 GeV. That's giga electron volts.
That's a lot of voltage. Yeah, so it must
It's
be
only a few
fascinating.
milliamps though, and it's kind of interesting because the what they call the beam power, it's 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 gigavolts essentially, but at milliamps.
Okay, so
But
it's
they
not
have to use
power.
several megawatts of power to run all the stuff that can produce and maintain that beam.
Well, that's pretty interesting. And you have worked on, or you mentioned to me some of your study of like this free energy technology and stuff like that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your interest in that kind of stuff and what you've done with that? Because you have a real background in science and engineering. So I'd be interested to hear about the free energy stuff that you think is plausible and stuff that maybe you researched or worked on that you think is shows some promise. Because that world is filled with just as many scammers as UFOs is, right? There's just so
Yes,
many scammers in that. It
and it's
attracts them.
it's really unfortunate because there are some of us who are open-minded enough to believe, I suppose, that there could be some corners of science and engineering that haven't been fully explored yet. And we have to contend with these typically loudmouthed people who are just, grifters, or they could be well meaning, but parroting things that they've heard. And for me, what it comes down to is building things. Um, I
Proof
have
of
a
con-
guy,
I'm real big on proof of concept.
likewise.
One of the things that I experienced, I worked at the Drexel Robotics Lab, and at that point, I built a bunch of robots and got friendly with one of the professors there who liked some of my work. But one of the things I found in academia, especially, is like that everybody's a theorist, and nobody built. I'm like, build it then. Like some
Well, of
one of the
course, because it can be expensive to properly build things.
yeah, one of the
And
professors though was very critical of some of my work, and I was kind of like, it works, it's inexpensive, and it's easily reproducible and manufacturable. So I don't see the issue, Mister Theory. Like, go get go down to the shop and show me a better version of what I built. They could there's too many theorists and uh, I'm real big on proof of concept. Like, don't tell me what you think you can build. Show me, something working, right?
Yeah.
Isn't there like a shortage though of people that can show working devices? They're always like it almost works in my experience, but there's some missing component or you know what I mean? Like, am I wrong in that kind of interpretation of some of these free energy things? What do you think about them?
Well, I think that in general, there's something to be said for uh, trying to design for higher efficiency in all sorts of different ways. And what I've seen with regards to let's say some of the magnet motors out there, uh, there are some interesting improvements I would say that I've seen over standard motors. And so, just as a motor or just as a generator, there are examples of novel things out there uh, that that can or do have the capability uh, to have working prototypes built and to be commercialized. And it just so happens that I'm employed doing that right now. We're what I can say about it, because we do have an NDA, but I'm designing an axial flux motor, and this motor carries forward the ideas of a Canadian inventor by the name of Bill Muller. Uh, he built some very interesting permanent magnet pulse motors that um, I've seen the original of, although it's in something of a state of disrepair. It only had one set of coils mounted, but his daughter Carmen invited me to come up to her house, and several other people, and we sort of had a meeting of minds. This was back in December, and since then, we have a mutual friend who's a machinist who actually wants to build motors, and so we are in the process of
Cool.
building a thing. But here's one thing that I also want to say: I'm not selling you people anything. I don't have a YouTube. Well, I do have a YouTube channel, but I have like 5 subscribers. But whatever.
Okay.
I'm not out there trying to sell a story to people.
Yeah, you're not grifting. We could tell that. You're not selling a book. You're not selling courses. You're not selling prototypes of
And
anything.
it might look like a bit of a claptrap, but this is my prototype that I designed in CAD and built myself of one of Bill Muller's, well, using some of the ideas that Bill Muller was one of the people to pioneer, along with John Bedini. I should also mention.
Bedini Motors, right?
Um, I built this whole thing myself, all the way down to the cores and the coils, and it does run as a motor, currently on 2 inputs. And I ran into a little snag where it likes to explode the input MOSFETs. So it needs some other things. It needs an output connection and a load. But
And
already, at
what are
least
the
with
advantage of
inputs,
a
I have a proof of concept that it does work, and it does work well as a motor, and that's enough. We there's so many people out there who want
because
to
it will
chase
be
the
a
idea of free energy, but really, even separately as a motor or as a generator, what John Bedini and Bill Muller and other people like them, Ray Cromrie and several others did, um,
at least they
does
increase the
represent.
efficiency, right, of
Yeah,
electric motors. So this
yeah.
is a super efficient electric motor,
all of
essentially.
all of those things do represent, in the case of their inventors, intellectual property. Although, as far as I know, well, I don't know about John Bedini. I think he's still around, but or maybe not.
I think so.
Unfortunately, I don't know. But
No, I think he's still around.
Yeah, but so there's this whole thing about applications, right? You come up with some novel thing, and there could be a number of applications that it can be geared toward, but all of that requires so much effort. I have multiple 3D printers. I have a bunch of my own stuff. I make stuff all the time, and still, it's not easy for someone like me, who's a design engineer who's been doing it for 20 years professionally. So there is something to be said for, garage inventors who might stumble across something, and what those somethings could be. I can't really say that I'm at liberty to say, not because of any deep state bullshit or anything like that, um, but simply because I think the jury, as it were, is still out. Um, and you
Oh
know
no,
what?
John Bedini did pass away in 2016. I wasn't even aware. So you're correct. That's a
Rest
shame.
in peace.
He was a very interesting guy. Very interesting guy. Uh, I love those renegade sort of science guys. Tales of the Sonic Void says, fantastic and informative conversation here. Thanks, Stephen and Ryan. Well, thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support. Much appreciated. Tales of the
Thank
Sonic
you.
Voyage. So, what's the advantage of a pulsed electric motor versus just one that doesn't isn't pulsed? It's just straight current. Is it energy efficiency, or what's the advantage?
Well, yes, I would say there are definitely prospects for improving the energy efficiency of a pulse motor versus a standard motor. Um, all other aspects of the design being the same. Let's say if you had two of the same kind of structure, but one runs in a pulse mode and uh, one is let's say AC or multi-phase. Uh, there's definitely something to be said for, in the pulse motors, since you're pushing the rotor instead of dragging the rotor around, you have bucking fields. And when you have bucking fields, you can get to field strengths that are higher than you can get to with solely attracting fields. And so you have an opportunity there. And there are a multitude of ways to go about seizing that opportunity.
Okay, well that's interesting, and that's one of the things that you're working on is improving
Yes,
the efficiency of electric motors, right?
yes, but it is more difficult than standard motors, because the controls become rather complex when it comes to pulse systems versus uh,
Oh
fully efficient
yeah. So what do you
or
use, like a microcontroller to
PWM.
control the pulses of power, something like that?
Essentially, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm fascinated with electric motors, and I like electric everything. Like, I don't like gas chainsaws. I don't like my gas powered car because I don't know how to work on a gasoline engine. So, like, if I buy a gas chainsaw or a gas lawnmower and it dies, well, I just got to buy a new one. It's fucked. But anything electric I've ever had, I could take it apart and replace the motor. Yeah,
Gas
yeah,
engines are such a claptrap.
yeah.
It's
It's
just,
just a
you can
mess.
see just from looking at them that it's the result of years and years and years uh, of things being glommed onto other things without a real, overall plan for improvement. It's just, incremental improvements year to year, and that's it.
Yeah,
Um,
I miss. I should correct myself. Carbureted cars I could fix and work on, but there are none anymore. Unless you want to buy a car from 1982, everything's fuel injection and computer controlled, and it's a mess now. I can't. But I don't like gasoline powered anything because I generally can't work on some of the stuff or get it running again. And electric, I don't know, like, I bought an electric lawnmower like 20 years ago. It still works. It's fine. Do you know what I mean? and it's required almost zero maintenance. Sharpen the blade on it once in a while
Hmm.
because you hit a rock. But I just much prefer electric everything because maybe because I'm an electronics guy, so I know I could probably fix it if I had to. There's been a few things that died on me, like a weed whacker. I replaced a motor in or whatever, blew it out somehow. But gas engines seem to be, I don't know, it just seems so archaic to me. Like, I would think that electric motors are more efficient and lower maintenance, and right? Or
Well,
am I wrong?
there are some very interesting shining examples out there, and I can name three of them: Koenigsegg, the German supercar manufacturer, BMW just recently, and a company called Donut Lab. All three of those companies now have patents for multi-phase axial flux motors. And in the case of Koenigsegg, their so-called they called it the dark matter motor. It weighs 86 pounds and it can take a maximum of 600 kilowatts, which is 800 horsepower.
That's crazy.
86 pounds, 800 horsepower. It's absolutely incredible.
So you
But
could have 32 if you put one on each wheel of a car, right?
yeah,
3,200 horsepower.
yeah,
Jesus Christ.
and one of those could fit on a motorcycle that would be completely and totally overpowered to the point where like your next design difficulty is actually finding a power source that's dense enough to run the thing.
Oh yeah, I could imagine they probably suck a lot of power. Now, just for an example, so you said this one electric motor has 800 horsepower, right? The 2025 Chevy Corvette ZR1 has 1,064 horsepower. So that's
Mhm.
pretty interesting. It's almost got the horsepower of a brand new Corvette in one
Yeah,
electric motor.
you
Whoa.
I think you could rightly call this class of electric motors actually electric engines, uh,
Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be a
because
better term.
they they work more like engines, uh, for sure. Um, and I think really that's a big part of the future with regards to electric vehicles, regardless of their power source. But there's always that question of um, um, how do you how do you get enough power on board to power motors that powerful? If we're already at that point with
Yeah.
the motors, you need a generator or maybe solid state batteries or a
Some kind of better than lithium ion battery, right? You would
yeah,
need something better than that, right?
yeah. But
Maybe a
I think one
mini
of the big
nuke power
things,
source.
I think one of the really central questions with regards to this idea of free energy is systems that interact with their environments. In Now I'm not a physicist, so I can't speak for all physicists, but from my understanding, um, in order to be able to do engineering, in order to have test cases that you can calculate for, you need to simplify the 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 problem in some sense. Um, there's this question of whether a system interacts with its environment. Now, typically, if we're just looking at a particle traveling through space or something, we essentially say that it doesn't interact with its environment. And by environment, I don't mean atmosphere. I mean just the space around it. And I think there are open questions there, and it's important to recognize that um, there is the possibility that Maxwell's demon could be tricked into going in one direction instead of all directions. And I'm not going to um, poo-poo that possibility outright just because I haven't seen an example of it yet. Um, I
Well, it's
think
good
a
to
lot
take
of
an
people
open
have
mind.
tried,
Yeah.
and maybe a lot of people, maybe some people have gotten close. Maybe some people have actually achieved that. Um, there's also a discussion that anyone serious would need to have with regards to our forebears and the people whose shoulders we stand on. Some of whom uh, claimed that they came up against suppression, and some of whom died, and some of those died under suspicious circumstances. So there
Yeah,
is this.
there's an awful lot of conspiracies about people who died under suspicious circumstances that were developing some of these what I would call fringe technologies like free energy or you know, right? It seems like an awful lot. The water powered car guy was
Yeah,
poisoned, and and I think
yeah,
you
Stanley
mentioned
Meyer,
Stanley Meyer, yeah,
and then there was Eugene.
allegedly poisoned or something. He thought he was poisoned,
Yeah,
and he suddenly died.
and then Eugene Malov, who for many years was the publisher and editor of Infinite Energy magazine, the um, the only popular magazine that covers the subject of low energy nuclear reactions and cold fusion. Um, now, there again, also, I want to say that uh, I don't lean one way or the other. I'm open to the possibility, but it really has to get to the point where something is rigorous and repeatable, and that demonstrations occur in public. That's all that is required of anyone who actually breaks that barrier. It would no longer suffice to say, well, it breaks the laws of thermodynamics. If you have something that's interacting with its environment and able to entrain ambient energy from its environment, then yes, you can have something that appears to put out more than it takes to keep it running.
Well, that's going to be an issue with many things. And what do you think about some of the? I don't. I know you don't really. You're not really up to speed, I suppose, on all the alien UFO stuff. But a lot of these people have been making claims of having like exotic materials that we hear about bismuth and magnesium and anti gravity. And what do you think of some of the anti gravity claims related to UFOs or not? Is there a real path to real anti gravity, or is this just wishful thinking, science fiction, and hoaxers and you know bullshitters?
So if you look at the general relativistic equation for gravity, and you look at Maxwell's equation for the magnetic field, you can see that um, they are very, very similar.
There's some
Um,
parallels for sure. Yeah.
you could say almost identical. It's just a couple of terms that are different. And so naturally, the question arises: well, is there some kind of connection there that we haven't really fully sussed out yet? Um, and uh, since I'm not a physicist, I can't say that I have enough specific knowledge to be able to say one way or another. But I think that most of the on the books physicists would poo poo the idea, because there's this whole concept that you can't cheat Maxwell's demon. But what if you can? And so I think that's really what the question boils down to for uh, everybody who has wondered about these things.
Yeah. I mean, I just kind of wondered what your take on that kind of stuff was. So, you are
So
doing these. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
so there really I suppose the theoretical question for me is, can can it be established that there is a direct connection between gravity and electromagnetism, as many people have posited? if that is true, and it can be proven with experiment, um, it would absolutely be revolutionary. And I think it deserves the effort for sure. Because what that extends to is really, a question that's connected with the Drake equation, but in reverse. It's a question of whether we can ever get out there.
Yeah, yeah. I guess you're right. So back to Stavatti. Uh, I think you've been kind of following along. Do you think they're ever going to produce anything, or do you think that this is just an investment scam, like many have alleged? And
I think it's an investment scam, and both of those guys are going to end up in jail for what they've done.
yeah, I mean, if they're lying to people, especially collecting money, claiming Beskar was building spaceships, some people, it makes me wonder, like, do you know that they haven't produced an airplane in 30 years, but you're going to believe that this guy built 2,000 spaceships for some secret space program? And
Oh, by the way, those shitty renderings, even if they did build those planes, they still wouldn't fly if they had real anti-gravity systems in them.
you think so? Yeah, it looks like they're just like, it looks like a lot of the designs of his is just like purposely designed to make it look cool, not to make it fly right. You know what I mean? It's like extra wings and weird configurations
Well,
and
I mean,
stuff.
there's a reason there were only like two or three experimental forward swept wing aircraft ever in the U.S.
They're very unstable, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would
So,
think. It's interesting that Wilcock every week is telling people of all these wonderful things that this company is going to do someday. And again, with the lies of his just seem to be out of control. Like when he first started saying his company was getting investors, it was like 5 million, 10 million. Now he's up to 800 and something $1 billion. And the contract is signed, though, Ryan Hopkins. They're just waiting for the money.
God damn, I'd like to come across an angel investor who gives me even $1 million, and you know what they're gonna get? They're gonna get a product that ships within like a year. Like,
Oh, that's pretty interesting. And, we talked
for,
about this.
for me, what it comes down to really is design engineering and the science behind it. And there are so many holes in these guys' stories that you know you 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 could fly some of those shitty planes through those big holes.
Yeah, we were talking about this process of converting plastic into usable fuel. What did you call that term for that?
Pyrolysis.
Pyrolysis. Can
Yeah,
you give me, because I'm just personally curious, I have no idea how that works. Can you give me a brief,
sure.
try to explain it to this monkey brain of mine? Like, how do you take plastic? I'm assuming it involves some process of heating it or something, but how do you take plastic? Like, let's say I had shredded up plastic bottles from
Hmm.
soda bottles. How do you take that through this process and turn it into some form of usable diesel? How do you turn it back into its, source material?
By heating it in an anoxic environment. So you have a chamber, you fill it with your shredded trash plastic, you backfill it with an inert gas, and then uh,
Not oxygen. It can't be oxygen.
right, right, and
Okay.
then you have a series of electrodes inside that vessel where you strike an arc, and the well, actually, there. So that's plasma pyrolysis, but you can do it just with heat also, and essentially it's heat reduction. You're heating it to the point where it would combust if there were oxygen, but since there's not oxygen, it decomposes.
Okay. That makes sense to me.
And so you get like a hydrocarbon feedstock, the equivalent of a hydrocarbon feedstock out of it. That's both, there's a gaseous fraction and there's a liquid fraction as well. And the gaseous fraction can go straight into a gas refinery, and the liquid fraction can go straight into a liquid refinery. So, the big question for me with regards to Mr. Julian Nature Jab is, I love what he's doing,
Me too.
and
Yeah.
I think that he's showing that there's a huge hole there that can be filled, that can actually make the plastic recycling industry profitable, especially if you co-locate it right next to a refinery.
Yeah. Well, you would think $4 a gallon for diesel, like that's got to be profitable, especially
Yeah,
when your input source, what would be the cost involved? Your input source is going to be trash. So the
yeah.
costs involved would be the power and I guess the inert gases, the machinery.
But
This
most of the
guy's
power you've already
amazing.
got, because that's just process heat that's already there at the refineries. So you can use the process heat that they already have to do the pyrolysis process. It would be an absolute game changer where you're taking the landfill and you're you know
Yeah,
you're
imagine
using it
taking an
actually
average
straight
landfill.
through.
This is what I was thinking about. There used to be a landfill in New Jersey on the way to my parents' house, and like I would pass that landfill. It was huge. It was like miles long. And I remember passing that landfill and thinking, what if you could take all of the plastics, every single plastic out of that landfill? Because first of all,
Yeah,
it doesn't break down. They just cover it over with bulldozers and hope for the best. But if you could take all the plastics out of every landfill, that's got to be a huge amount of energy you could produce with that,
it
you know?
is. And if you can also set up infrastructure to prevent more and more plastics from reaching the landfill and just have them go straight into the pyrolysis process, that's even better,
It could be
because
one in every city or something. Yeah. Like a big
that can
plant in
help
every
to
city.
actually make the plastic recycling industry profitable instead of subsidized by the government, which it always has been,
Yeah. And
because
it's
it's cost
also
intensive.
recycling is a lie, don't you think? Like they don't recycle most of the materials they collect, they ship them off to Indonesia or whatever, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, and that's the thing too. Is it's there's a big grift in the recycling industry where there's no verifiable uh, chain of custody, so to speak, for the trash. So yeah, it can wind up wherever. But there is a solution to that needs to be industrialized, and as far as I'm concerned, Julian is leading the way. So he gets all the big ups for that. I hope
Yeah,
he
there was
succeeds.
another person, and I can't recall his name, but he came up with a process for shredding plastic, and then through some kind of chemical and heat process, he would press it into something that's like plywood. That's another
Oh,
great. Like,
yeah,
why
yeah,
not? There's all these
yeah.
homeless people. We
Plastic
can
wood,
make
yeah,
plastic
yeah.
wood.
It's like
Yeah,
a replacement for decking and stuff like that. I've seen
yeah,
that stuff.
or siding or whatever. You can make
Yeah,
siding out of it. Yeah, I just think that like the it makes me sad when you know that like every one of us we have microplastics in us because it's just so toxic
yeah, man.
and just all over every environment. There's microplastics everywhere and dirt and your lawn probably has microplastics in it and food and whatever you're going to have that stuff in you. It's toxic. I mean, plastic's convenient, but there's a huge problem with how do you get rid of it when you're done with it.
Yeah,
This fuel process to me is fascinating. It should be a solution. Like we could have one of those processing plants or multiple of them in every big city, and you take all your plastic there, and
yeah,
maybe they could have like a credit program, like they give you credits for the plastic if it's enough, so you could get some free gas or whatever. It's
yeah. It would
just
work perfectly for energy credits because it's like a 1-to-1 exchange kind of thing.
yeah,
There
and
there is
diesel
a
can be
certain
used
amount
for
of
more
energy
than
bound up in all of these different plastics, and so we know approximately the quantity of energy that is bound up in each of these types of plastics for a certain amount. And if that were all to be compiled into a commercial plant that does pyrolysis, it would absolutely be game changing. Um,
Lime
and
Amoeba has a good
there have
question.
there have
What?
been attempts before, and actually, there are some cities that have commercial pyrolysis machines, but it still just hasn't gone past that first step yet.
That makes sense. And Lime Amoeba has a good question. Wouldn't this still be a huge energy input to heat this process? Also, there's the issue of contaminants. I have an environmental science degree, I promise. A lot of smart people. But what do you
So,
think of the energy required to do this?
so with regards to the idea of co-locating a pyrolysis plant on the same site as a refinery, refineries have plenty of process heat. That is heat that is too low grade for them to use in the processes, but is still high grade enough to be useful.
Okay.
So, so there are instances where you can get high enough grade process heat right on site there at the refinery, where you could use that heat. Where right now it's just being bled off. It's like nothing's occurring with it. It's just excess. That's a part of the process.
And that could be utilized to make the plastic transform into fuel then, right?
Yeah,
Oh, that's it. So it seems to me a no-brainer, you know. You wonder what sometimes all the government does with all of our tax dollars. Like that would be something I would support taxpayer money going to research. Like it just seems like a no-brainer. Somebody should be doing it. I'm going to see if I could get this Julian guy on the show because I think he's doing great work. It's fascinating what he's trying to do.
oh, that'd
But
be awesome if you could get him on.
yeah, I would love to talk to him because he seems like a brilliant guy and he's really so passionate about what he's doing. I love that. You know, when you find somebody that's just not only are they doing great work, but they're super passionate about what they're trying to do and change. He could change the world with that technology, you
Yeah,
know? Yeah.
and he's gotten some shit for it also, because there are certain naysayers who are like, oh well, you're just a welder and you're not an engineer and blah blah blah. But you know what? He is an amazing autodidact just to be able to learn enough to assemble and operate a functional pyrolysis system. So those people can kick rocks.
Well, it goes back to show me your device that's better, you know? There's always going to be critics. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking the time to help shed some light on the Stavatti scam, as I call it. And, you know, we'll check in with you again and see if you got some interesting research projects. Maybe you could come back and talk about some of the stuff that you're working on. Seems pretty interesting to me. So I love fringe science and all that kind of stuff.
Thank you for having me, Steve. I really appreciate it, and thanks to everybody in the chat who came, and the viewers out there. I appreciate the
Okay.
chance to talk a little bit about the things I've worked on, and of course, put another nail in the Stavatti
Stavati
coffin while we're
scam.
at it.
Yes. Well, it's good to hear from somebody with your background because then we know, you know, like I don't have a background like you. So when I say this is a scam and here's why, it might not hold as much weight, but somebody with your manufacturing background and your science and engineering background can really help us to pick apart and peel back those layers of deception that are being used to create this false
Yep.
bullshit reality. Yeah.
What
And
David Wilcock and Stavatti sell is a tall tale, and that's all they sell. That's the only product they've ever shipped. So fuck them.
yeah, well, hey, I agree with you. So you haven't been here before. When I throw you out of here, you can just close down your browser and you're okay. I appreciate you doing this and interesting conversation. Thank you, Mr. Ryan Hopkins.
Thank you, sir.
All right, you have a good night. All right, what a great conversation. I love those. Effortless and fun. And Double Tap Ranger Outdoors, I did miss your super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you for kindness, generosity, and support of the show. Much, much appreciated. We'll check in with the Kick chat. No money, no honey on Kick tonight, but for those unaware, we do read and thank every single person who supports us on Kick by buying a sub or becoming a subscriber. We'll give the Kick chat some love and some shout outs. Scopely CFO is over there, and Clydesdale is over there. Thick as Wids, Good Goy is over there. Blazing Mad. Yeah, that's about it. Robert P. We want to thank Robert P. for being the MVP. so far in the number one slot for gifting 10 subs recently. Much, much appreciated. Thank you, Double Tap Ranger Outdoors. We'll check in with the PayPal pledges as well. Yeah, come back sometime. He's an interesting guy. I love guys that are tech guys that are into strange science stuff, and it's very interesting to me. This kind of I've always been interested in fringe science, right? Fringe science is very interesting to me. Let me check in with the PayPal pledges. Just make sure we don't have anybody else to call out. For those unaware, we read every single super chat. We thank every person who contributes in any way. One moment. Nope. It looks like we are all caught up. One moment. Okay, and a couple more pieces of business before I let you guys go. Um, Recently, I've been begging you all to go over and subscribe to our Clips channel. So let me put it in the Kick chat as well. I put it in the YouTube in the YouTube live chat. There is pinned at the top of the chat the uh, the link to join our Clips channel, and I'm going to put it or subscribe to our Clips channel, and I'm going to put it into the Kick chat as well. And we appreciate all of you people who have already become a subscriber. We're trying to get that channel monetized so we can give Spooky a job running the Clips channel. Spooky's the best Clips producer that I've ever seen because Spooky really understands the material better than, if I just hire a video editor, they're not going to understand what's going on, but Spooky will. So we're trying to give Spooky at least a part-time job producing the clips. And thank you, Sandra McDonald, for a super sticker of a character holding their head in the hand saying, "How's it going?" Someday, this software will finally do the super stickers right. And I apologize, but thank you, Sandra, for your support of the show. I went over to CSP's live today, first time since signing up. I was already banned in the chat. DSP much watched this channel. No way of knowing me. That's interesting. DSP. Yeah, DSP. You got Instaband over there? Imagine that. So I'm going to take a moment to remind you to please do, if you haven't already, and this is for the people watching the replay as well, if you haven't already, please do go over to our Clips channel. I will put it in the description of the video. It's pinned in the live chats, so very easy to find the link. And I'm kind of tired of repeating myself, so I made sort of a bumper video to beg people to go begging for subs over there. I'll be right back in one moment. Greetings and salutations. For quite some time now, many of you have asked us to do shorter videos or clips from our long format live show. I understand some people want to see shorter and more concise, quick videos, so we started a clips channel on YouTube. I am sorry it took me so long to get it started. In order to have some help going through our thousands of hours of previous live shows and making clips, I'm going to need help. Honestly, my hands are full as it is, just hosting and producing the live shows we do. So we started a Clips channel. It's Truth Seekers Clips on YouTube, but all one word. You can use the YouTube search tool to find it. Just search for Truth Seekers Clips again, all one word. You'll see a strange guy with sunglasses pop up. Go there and smash that subscribe button today. Otherwise, you can find and click on the link near the top of every video or podcast description going forward. Please go there and smash that subscribe button. It would really help us out. We will also be pinning a link to our new Clips channel in the YouTube and Kick.com chats during every live show. So if you have not already, please do go over to our Clips channel, watch some clips, and subscribe. We need your support to make the Clips channel a success. We need to get that channel monetized so I can hire a Clips producer to help us expand that channel and grow the show and its formats. If you subscribe to the Clips channel during the live broadcasts, please do type I subscribe to the new Clips channel in all capital letters, and I'll give you a thank you and shout out. My thanks to all of you who have subscribed already. We appreciate your support. And hey, those of you who asked for the Clips channel, please do go and support our efforts in giving you what you asked for. Besides hitting the magic number of subscribers YouTube requires to get the channel monetized, we also need more watch time, so please do go check out some of the videos on the Clips channel. Some of our best and funniest bits are there. So please subscribe today, watch some of the videos, and help us get that channel going and monetized. Praise the cash, bitches! Our new Clips channel will become an additional source of revenue, which I need. Because I need that money. I really, really do. Praise the cash, bitches. Let's get that channel monetized and praising the cash. And thank you all to everybody that has subscribed already. I'll take some comments and questions from the live chat before we bounce on out of here. Dex Star says this is the only person with spine enough to call out all these UFO fraudsters. Combine is the GOAT. Thank you. Cambion is the GOAT, I think you meant, but we'll take it. Thank you for your kindness. We appreciate it. Plan D is here. Thank you, Plan D. Tales of the Sonic Voyage. I signed up that night, but I couldn't comment for 24 hours. He's got the band hammer out, right? He's got the band hammer out. Ha ha ha. We all went over there to troll him. Yeah, fuck Darkside Phil. He's one of those guys, man. I can't believe he still has any audience whatsoever, considering the way he begs like crazy. It's absolutely ridiculous to me that guy's still getting donations. The way he yells and bitches and cries to his audience, it's cringeworthy. Arlene reminding everybody that you could follow me on X or Twitter at Stephen Cambion, the best place to know about upcoming shows. And I apologize. I did say we're doing a live show yesterday, but I had some family commitments that had to be taken care of, and family stuff comes first. No place I would rather be, but I had some things going on, had to take care of. Troll. Actually, there are some in David Wilcock's chat that seem like genuinely good people. Too bad they are deluded. Yeah. Double Tap Ranger Outdoors, thank you for exposing what needs to be exposed. Well, that's one of the things we're here. We try to be of public benefit. That's a big part of my media company. I kind of go with the PBS model. Provide good educational, informative material for people and be of public benefit. Double Tap Ranger Outdoors with another one for the goal. Thank you for your kindness, generosity, and support of the show. It is much, much appreciated. And where are they at? I have some. Oh, here we go.
Praise the cash. Praise the cash. Praise the cash. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your generosity. Praise the cash. Praise the cash.
Thank you, Double Tap Ranger Outdoors. So I guess to just kind of wrap things up and bookend things, what we learned tonight is that most likely David Wilcock and Christopher Beskar of Stavatti Aerospace have no working technology. If they did, why are they starting research labs that David Wilcock wants to fund to find basically the technology they claim they already have? Remember, our guest tonight was working on things like anti-gravity and charge clusters and free energy devices. And, why would they need to start a research lab and then fund someone like our guest tonight to develop these technologies if they already knew how to do it and they already had it working? It seems very clear to me that they have nothing that works. All they have is lies and fake stories about Christopher Beskar working on top secret projects and Area 51 technologies that he was exposed to. No offense, but I call bullshit. I absolutely call bullshit. And we do have the David Wilcock clips, but I'm going to save that for another time. Patty says, I'm surprised Darkside Phil doesn't get taken down by YouTube, but who knows how that operates. Yeah. Yes, we're assuming tomorrow, but still send me money for long-term projects, says Richard Staffney. Yeah, every Sunday it's time to troll David Wilcock. Yes, this moron. I can't wait. I don't like to wish my time away, but I can't wait till the end of 2025 because by then, even as dumb as Rock's followers will know they all got scammed. No ascension in 2025. No, none. Tales of the Sonic Voyage. I signed up for Wilcock's YouTube today. I need to catch his live sometimes. Oh boy, right? David Wilcock is on at 4 a.m. Monday mornings here, says Mr. Sauce. Well, you must be in a foreign country with quite the time change. Yeah. So we have done our due diligence. We want to take a moment to thank you, kind and generous benefactors, but I'm getting tired of repeating myself. So one last piece of business that I want to remind everybody. Some time ago, we had over 200 people on Patreon, and our Patreon is only $1. And I would use the Patreon funds every month, the $200 or so, to pay almost all of the show's monthly bills for our Google Drive, for our streaming software, for other video editing software, or whatever we needed. And the economy is terrible right now, so we're down to something like 35 or 38 people on the Patreon. So, and for those unaware, you could join the Patreon for just $1 and you get the same goodies that you get as a YouTube channel member for $5. You just don't get a channel member badge in the live chat. But every time I upload a members only video, I upload the same video to Patreon. So it's the same thing, but for $1. So brother, can you spare $1? The link to our Patreon is in every video description and podcast description. And I've got a bumper for that, but I'll play that on the way out here. So, boy, I think we had a great guest tonight. I had a fun conversation. I like shows like this. It was very effortless, right? I had a video of Elizondo apologizing for his UFO deception, but I deleted it in 2019. Wish I kept it. Yeah, me too. I would have loved to have seen that. Richard Warner's little lady has to watch the less than live version. I'm banned from comments again for 24 hours. I'll have to wait to be out of YouTube jail to comment then. I don't know what you're in YouTube jail for. Nothing that I've done. When David Wilcock was with Corey Good, my gut instinct told me everything was off with them both. Everything they talked about was way too far-fetched. Yeah, and now we know for sure that they were just making all those stories up. And that's been verified by multiple people, including their former boss and producer of the television show they were on at Gaia TV. Just one of those things. So, my friends, we've done our due diligence. And it appears that we've caught David Wilcock lying again. And I love that we have sort of an industry manufacturing expert, a real engineer to confirm what I already knew, but, we like to be sure. And that is that David Wilcock's claims are complete and total horseshit. He's not creating space planes. He's not creating interstellar spaceships and rocket ships and missiles and super fast airplanes and hover cars and electric cars. He's producing nothing but bullshit. And, at some point in time, David Wilcock is going to have to pay for his deception. And I believe that time is coming. So, hey, David Wilcock, tick-tock, motherfucker. You're going to have to come up with a whole new scam after this latest Angel Ascension is Coming Soon scam, which, by the way, Wilcock has ran twice before, comes crashing down at the end of this year. And no Ascension, no mass arrests. Oh, he's saying that the ICE arrests are the mass arrests he's been talking about. Bullshit. He's desperate for a win. It's completely and totally ridiculous that this clown is allowed to just scam people openly on the internet for years on end. And he never seems to face any consequences, but I'm sure that those consequences are coming. It's called karma. You can't live your life scamming people for decades and not pay a karmic price. Just karma always works, friends, but sometimes it takes way too long. So I've been trying to help karma accelerate the karmic wheel, you might say, so that Wilcock faces those consequences sooner rather than later. I've done this to the best of my ability at great personal price, because Wilcock is telling everybody I'm a criminal and I'm a Satan worshiper and I'm a child predator and I'm a thief that stole money out of his bank account and I'm a terrorist as bad as the Unabomber, and he's going to sue me and he's going to have me arrested and I'm going to get the death penalty. It's absolutely ridiculous. David Wilcock, your grift is coming crashing down, and if you ask me, it can't happen to a more deserving person. So we have done our due diligence, and that's all I got for you, friends. But I will be back tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Got a great show, big show planned for you tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But for now, that's all I got for you, friends. We want to thank our amazing guest, Ryan, and all of you for joining us. I'll be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Hope you'll be here with me. Good night, and God bless all of you.
David Wilcock is lying again. Decades of fakery he can't defend. David Wilcock is lying again, but karma always has its revenge. Fake insiders and secret space lies, fake bullshitters I try to disguise, fake stories I sell to the weak, fake stories I just repeat. David Wilcock is lying again. Decades of fakery he can't defend. David Wilcock is lying again, but karma always has its revenge. Fake stories, that's all I got. Fake stories, I hope you forgot. Fake stories, my history of lies. Fake stories, open your eyes. David Wilcock is lying again. Decades of fakery he can't defend. David Wilcock is lying again, but karma always has its revenge. Fake stories, my history of lies. Fake stories, open your eyes. Fake stories, my history of lies. Fake stories, open your eyes. My history of lies. Fake stories, always open your eyes. David Wilcock is lying again. Decades of fake lie he can't defend. David Wilcock is lying again, but karma always has its revenge.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome back. It's time to praise the cash. Get out your wallet or purse and praise it. I feel those dollars vanishing from your wallet or purse and appearing right here in my pocket, just like magic. Praise the cash. I need that money. I really do. I need that money. I really do. So don't hold back. It's time to support the stream. Praise the cash, and thank the dollar almighty for all the money we are about to receive. I want to take a moment to thank all you true supporters, you Patreon supporters, you PayPal pledgers, you people buying me a coffee, you people becoming YouTube channel members, you people gifting YouTube channel memberships, you kind and generous people sending super chats, buying super stickers, you people becoming subscribers on Kick, you people gifting subs on Kick. Thanks, and God bless all you kind and generous benefactors. The rest of you, I'm glad you're here, but really, come on, brother, can you spare $1? My Patreon's only $1, and you get the same extra goodies our YouTube channel members get. Last I checked, there's only 38 people over there giving me $1. Brother, can you spare $1? I need that money. I really do. Times are tough. The economy is in the shitter. Patreon helps struggling content creators like me stay afloat. I use the Patreon funds to pay our show's bills. And whatever we need to keep the show going, praise the Patreon. We need to praise the cash over on Patreon. Do you enjoy the content I make here? Then please consider supporting me on Patreon. Praise the single dollar you give. That helps us keep this show going. Brother, can you spare $1? The link to the Patreon is in the description of this video or podcast. Let's go. Let's get some dollars flowing and new stories, shows, and projects going. Let's praise the cash. Praise the cash. Praise the cash. We thank you. Now give me a fucking $1 so I can keep doing this show.